Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the SocksMapleSexy.net Let's Play Apple Tarot competition. We're now deep into the competition in week number 4, and Zelos has pulled out not one, but 2 cards this week. He's pulled out Filthy and Fantastic, meaning our concept is either Filthy Fantasy or Fantastic Filth, depending on which way you prefer to look at it. I'm doing Fantastic Filth. That sentence sounds pretty darn bad, I have to say. And so to that end, I'm playing Conker's Bad Fur Day, released for the Nintendo 64 in 2001, or the final games to be released, in fact, for the console, which was it's not that uncommon where a console will die out, it'll stop being developed on, but there'll still be a steady trickle of games coming out right to the end of development and development of the next console, which in this case was the GameCube. And Conker's one of the last games ever produced for this console, along with Mario Party 3. But also tradition with final games for the console, it's actually pretty good. I think it really does merit being called a fantastic game for multiple reasons. Because you need to look at the definition of the word fantastic. Yes, it can mean, great, but it can also mean outrageous or imaginary. And Conker's Bad Fur Day is certainly outrageous. There really is nothing like it on the console. Any other game can't quite like Conker's Bad Fur Day. Let's talk a little bit about the gameplay then. What you're seeing here is the basic gameplay. You are seeing that Conker has to get through various obstacles. In this case, this gargoyle who just threw us off of a cliff because he's a meanie like that. Conker will be presented with various obstacles. He's just trying to get home, basically, after a massive party and a massive night out. He has a raging hangover. He interacts with a scarecrow called Birdie, who he believes to be called Beardy, but actually he's called Birdie because he scares birdies, as the scarecrow explains to him. And from then on, a wild and outrageous adventure unfolds before him. Also, we have a frying pan. We will have a frying pan in a second. I don't know what it is with games and frying pans. They seem to love giving game characters frying pans as weapons. I mean, this game, Peach in Super Mario RPG, Peach in Super Smash Bros. Melee, basically Peach in anything where she would require to actually fight things that isn't Super Princess Peach. Anyway, but I digress. So now we have an actual weapon. I admit that a frying pan is not really that much of a weapon. We can go and give that gargoyle what for. And this, as I say, is the basic pattern of Conker's Bad Fur Day. An obstacle appears that will either just block your path outright like the gargoyle, or they'll want you to do something in order to either move out of your way or help you in some way. And honestly, going back to this game, because I played it years ago and played it to completion, it is a bit more repetitive than I first thought. But it has enough variety within that repetition to not be samey like Sonic 3D was last week. Anyway, let's go and hit the gargoyle with the frying pan and see what happens. He quite rightly mocks us for attacking a huge slab of rock with a frying pan, but it proves to be his downfall because he falls off the bridge to his demise. This happens a lot to characters in this game. This is not your kiddies N64 game, people. This is downright brutal at times. A lot of characters are going to get flat out murdered, pulverized, exploded, and just die in various horrible ways. Speaking of dying in horrible ways, we have this gap to cross. So jump up with the Z trigger, press A, and not quite make it and fall to our doom. Fortunately, you don't actually die if you fall from a height in this early part of the game, but once you go beyond this part, falling from a great height will kill you instantly, so be very careful of that. And if you die in this game, I didn't unfortunately get the chance to show it off, but there's a very humorous cutscene the first time you die, and yes, I fell off again because I'm kind of an idiot like that. But it does give me a chance to show that if you fall down here, after the gargoyle has fallen down here, and you look over to your left here, the gargoyle is there, or the broken piece of his body are there, and they're still kind of twitching. Yes, that's kind of horrible. So once more from the top then, back on this boulder, hold down the Z trigger, press the A button, hover over the A button, and we can access this B pad. This is another element of the gameplay in Conker's Bad Fur Day. You'll come across these pads with the B button on them, and when you press B, various things will happen. They vary depending on the level they're in and where the pads are situated, and as the game tells you, they're called context sensitive. There's another rather humorous cutscene where Birdie explains what context sensitive actually means. The humour in this game is very, very dark indeed. Also, I ended up skipping this cutscene with the L button, but we get a very brief glimpse of one of the main villains of the game, that Weasley scientist guy. And in that cutscene, he actually goes through his various inventions, and one of them is anti-gravity chocolate, which he throws out of the window to make room for his other experiments. And this, funnily enough, is the health system for Conker's Bad Fur Day. It's kind of amusing that, you know, it's chocolate, but it's chocolate floating in zero gravity. Even Willy Wonka didn't come up with that. So as I said, the goal is to help as many people as possible. Also, I've just realised that the audio actually breaks into that cutscene not once but twice. It broke into the cutscene with the Weasel guy as well. This game, I have fond memories of this game, but you know they say never meet your heroes? Maybe never play your favourite games again, because you'll start to notice flaws and problems with it as you get older and come back to play it again, I've noticed. So our task that B set us in the cutscene that I skipped is we have to take this hive back to her because it's been stolen by these wasps. Unfortunately, the wasps are about to let it go without a fight. And they're also smoking cigars because this game, as I say, has a very fruity sense of humour. More so than any other game that Rare developed. I mean, Rare was known for a fruity sense of humour, but it's a lot more subtle in other titles. Here, the subtlety is thrown out of the window. This is all the subtlety of a sledgehammer to the knees. So we had to run away from these Three Stooges-like wasps, but as long as you stick to the path, they won't actually sting you. If they do sting you, they'll take the hive back, but it's more of an annoyance than anything, and when you do lose health, you can easily get it back. Once you get the hive back to Mrs. B, yes, that's actually her name. I know it's not the most original name in the world, but what can you do when that is the character's name? She flies into the hive, and it turns into a gigantic gun turret. Sorry for laughing, but this scene still makes me laugh. In fact, these three wasps make me laugh, even though they're extremely minor characters. The humor of this game, even though it's an N64 game, yes, it's mature, yes, it's very, very dark in places, but it makes me smile. And as I say, this game is utterly, utterly unique for its time and for the console it was on. There was absolutely nothing like this. Rare was primarily known for making nice-looking 3D platformers like Banjo-Kazooie and Donkey Kong 64. They call it Donkey Kong Country 64 there. She's referring to her husband there. You do actually see him later in the game, but this is kind of a skip through some of the better parts of the game. That may sound like I'm skipping out the better parts of the game. That's not what I meant. I meant that I want to show off as much of the gameplay as possible. That's what I mean. And we also get cash for completing various tasks. Sometimes the cash is just floating around on its own. And this actually does have a noose, because towards the end of the game, you pay someone to commandeer a giant flaming barrel. And that flaming barrel, spoiler alert, actually destroys Mrs. B. It crushes her to death. So let's skip to Barn Boys, the first major area of the game, and get followed on by a mouse and pushed into the next cutscene. I didn't plan that, I swear, but I had to keep that in because that's hilarious to me. So, yeah, the blue humour. As I say, Rare is well known for its blue humour, but it's a lot more subtle in games like Banjo-Kazooie. And there are some brilliant documentaries that Rare themselves have started to recently release to coincide with the release of Rare Replay, which is a 30-in-1 compilation of some of their old games. Things like Perfect Dark, Zero is included, Jetpack is included, Nintendo properties like Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong Racing, they're not included. But 30 games in one, that's what Rare Replay is. And in these documentaries, they talk about some of the design and creative process behind old games. And one of them is Banjo-Kazooie, and you realise that when Mumbo Jumbo is saying in his magical spells, Umanaka, that actually came about because Grant Kirkhope was having, shall we say, a male problem with his genitalia, and he came into the office one day and went, "Ooh, Minakas," and that kind of stuck, and they thought, we can turn it into Umanaka, and that was Mumbo Jumbo's spell. Also, of course, the famous sound Grant Kirkhope himself recorded for the Mad Monster Mansion Flower Pots, where he's actually saying thank you, but he had to re-record it 30 times because Nintendo representatives kept thinking that he was saying the words fuck you, which actually he wasn't. And it frustrated him to the point of annoyance, and I can understand that. So, pretty humour is nothing new in Rare games, it's just a lot more subtle, is the point I'm trying to make. So back to the gameplay then. We have to feed that mouse that's running around annoying the hell out of these metal blocks some cheese. These metal blocks behave just like Fraps, by the way, and if they crush you, the cheese gets it, and you have to do it again. It's a very annoying part of the game, but I wanted to include it for one very specific reason. Well, two, actually. One, to point out the repetitive nature of the gameplay, which I might sound like a hypocrite because, you know, I criticised it last week with Sonic 3D, but I'm not criticising it so much in this one, but there is a reason for it. So Marvin, in total, wants 3 cheeses. I cut out all the donkey work, and this is what happens if you feed the third one. Take note, kids, don't eat too much cheese before bedtime, or this might happen to you. This is the equivalent of Monty Python and the Meaning of Life's wafer thin mint. Marvin eats too much cheese and explodes in a gory mess, leaving nothing behind but his head and his rib cage. Yes, this appeared on Nintendo 64. I just have to keep reiterating that because it's just baffling to me that this actually got through Nintendo's creative process. And he leaves behind his rib cage with one last fart, which gets the block off that guy's back. This game actually came out twice more. In 2005, Rare ported this over to the Xbox under the title Conker Live and Reloaded. Unfortunately, this remake was not as well received as the original, because yes, it got a graphical update and it looked much better, but they took out some of the challenges in the single player, they completely changed the multiplayer, and perhaps most egregiously of all, a lot of the foul language was either toned down or removed completely, and fans of Conker's crude and lewd behaviour just didn't like that. Speaking of crude and lewd behaviour, I've skipped to one of the boss battles of the game, but to do that, we have to whip out our dick and pee on fire demons. No, I'm not joking, as you can see right here. Once you spray on the fire demons enough, they'll turn black and go, I've got pee in my mouth, and you've killed them. I guess, anyway. And this is kind of amusing. I put one of the demons out because one of the other demons snuck up on me and set fire to my tail. There is a bit of a strategy to this. You can aim with the control stick, but it's kind of hard to control, and you will run out of pee eventually. I find just letting them surround you like this and spraying them one at a time works wonders. I ran out of juice, but thankfully triggered enough to get to the actual boss fight. There are several boss fights in this game, and they're all very, very memorable to me. Some more than others. This, to me, is perhaps the second most memorable boss fight of the entire game. You might be thinking, why am I not showing the first most memorable boss fight of the entire game? Well, that's because the first most memorable boss fight is the Great Mighty Pooh. And the Great Mighty Pooh needs no introduction, but I will attempt to give him one anyway. He is a giant, operatic piece of shit. And I don't mean like he's a piece of shit as a person, I mean he's actually an anthropomorphic piece of shit. Like a turd. And he sings opera while trying to pelt you with smaller turds. Yes, this game is absolutely mental. As if I haven't, mentioned that enough already. Speaking of mental, we have to fight this boiler with giant bollocks. And the reason why I didn't fight the Great Mighty Pooh on camera is I was going to, but then I realised I'd have to talk over the Pooh song, the Great Mighty Pooh song, because he's constantly singing to you as you fight him. And I didn't feel like doing that. That's sacrilege. Never mind the judges, I would adopt myself points if I dared to sing over the Great Mighty Pooh singing. So instead we're fighting this gigantic boiler with huge brass tackle, and he's kind of annoying if you fight him the wrong way. He's supposed to come over to you immediately, and then you can jump onto one of these chains and spray him down with some sewage water. Unfortunately, in this take, the boss didn't feel like really cooperating. He finally did, fortunately. He'll try and spray you with a flamethrower attack. Also, that sludge water is not actually touching him. This is the N64 era, and we've still got dodgy hit detection. That's really not acceptable. So you go up to this guy, press the B button, and hit him in the balls with a couple of bricks, or possibly cinder blocks, but I think they're supposed to be bricks. So while I'm fighting this guy, let's go through some of the other bosses. In addition to the Great Mighty Pooh and this guy, we have a gigantic Terminator-like robot made entirely out of hay. We have what appears to be a little girl, but she's actually a puppet on a gigantic teddy bear monstrosity experimental weapon. We also have an alien, just a flat-out xenomorph. I think they even call it an alien. They're not trying to, at this point, to even hide the copyright infringement. This game rips off The Matrix. It rips off Saving Private Ryan. It rips off The Terminator, as I already mentioned. It rips off several franchises, Lovingly, though, so they don't get sued, presumably. And the final battle of the game is actually that alien, and the copyright infringement gets so bad, they actually, repeat the famous line from Alien 3, get away from her, you bitch. Where the alien kills Conker's girlfriend, Berry, and then you fight it, and eventually push it out of an airlock. Yeah, that doesn't sound familiar at all, does it, guys? And something very strange happened in this boss fight. I was trying to entice him to come over here, I got too far over, and I thought, well, I'm going to take some damage here. Instead, he just sort of charged me into the corner, and nothing really happened. I don't know if that's a glitch or not. This guy takes 4 hits to the balls to eventually kill him. And if you wonder what he's saying, he's actually saying, prepare to receive a bollocking tonight. I thought he was just going, because I was always hitting the chain too fast for him to actually get the line out. Now, Conker himself had a rather interesting, this game had a rather interesting development. Conker, of course, his first appearance was in Diddy Kong Racing, together with fellow Rare adventure mascot Banjo, and the idea was to give them a game where they could sort of gauge their popularity. Interestingly, Timber the Tiger, another character in that game, was also supposed to get his own game, but screenshots never actually materialised, the game obviously never came out, to the point that people were thinking, well, did this game ever actually exist beyond supposition and rumour? And Rare has been famously tight-lipped on the Timber project, so if it did exist, we'll never actually know the truth. And I call bullshit here, game. I was pulling down the chain, and you set me on fire during the cutscene. I call shenanigans. This game, as I said, was supposed to be originally very, very different. It was originally Conker's 12 Tails. Also, we beat the balls off this bourgeois big boiler. Try saying that when you're drunk. This game was originally supposed to be Conker's 12 Tails, which was a comedic platform game similar to Banjo-Kazooie. And screenshots came out for that in official Nintendo magazine, which I used to read every single month when I was growing up as a kid and then as a teenager. And then the game just went dark. Completely dark in 1999. And then resurfaced as the much cruder Conker's Bad Fur Day. It's one of the most bizarre reimaginings I could ever imagine I've ever seen in video game history. And we did get a taste of what Conker's 12 Tales would have been like, by the way, because they actually released a Game Boy game called Conker's Pocket Tales, with a similar title, and that doesn't have any of the crude humour in it. In that game, you are Conker fighting against an evil acorn wizard. No, I'm not joking. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this filthy but fantastic game, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Also, the Fire Demons came back, because of course they did, after I blew them up in the boiler, because that's fair game. So that was week 4 of the Let's Play Apple Tarot. I hope I did this game justice, and if you haven't played it before, I really would encourage you to try it out, because yes, it's rude, yes, it's obnoxious, but it's glorious for it, and this little 15-minute glimpse of it really cannot do it justice. So if you haven't played it, please do try it out yourself. And all that's left to be said is that I've been Rainiac, this has been week 4 of the Let's Play Apple Tarot competition, and I will see you next time for whatever gimmick Zealous throws at us next. Knowing what he did for week 3 with flipping the card upside down, and week 4 giving us 2, is probably nothing good. Until next time, bye for now.